Aloha everyone, welcome again. Today we're going to be focusing on supporting ourselves from the inside out. Everything is going to feel really good and hopefully really buoyant and effortless. If at any point something doesn't feel good, try to do a little less, move a little slower, and find a space that feels like you're floating in the ocean or floating on your surfboard, and you could just be there for hours and your body would be happier at the end. That's the goal. So with that, we're going to begin with a little bit of chanting. It's my dream to do the Hanuman Chalisa, but I couldn't get it to print, so I guess that is not what's happening today. So instead we'll start with a little bit of Hanuman, let's call it Hanuman invocation, and then a little bit of Hanuman mantra. And if you have the sheet, we're going to, at the very, very, very bottom right corner, at the very end of the whole long chant, there's the Jaya Jaya Hanumanji, and then Om Hum Hanumate Rudrat Makaya Hum Pat Swaha. That's what we're going to be singing. And I guess no drum, because that's probably too much, huh? And you can sing with me, or it can be call and response, but I'll be calling and responding. So you just decide whenever you want to sing too. Hanumanji, Jaya Jaya Hanumanji, Jaya Jaya Hanumanji, Jaya Jaya Hanumanji. Om Hum Hanumate Rudrat Makaya Hum Pat Swaha. 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 You can just take a couple of breaths. And then just notice your presence in this moment after chanting, after harmonizing, after vibrating. And see if you can keep with that inward focus. Thank you, that's great service. That inward focus, that inward sensing as we start to transition to our starting position. So turn to your right. And even though we're just laying on our back, let the process of coming down onto the back be enjoyable. Like, you get to lay down right now. You get to let the body relax. And once you've made it down to the ground, stretch the legs out. Let the arms come to any angle that feels good. And just start to feel your breath, kind of like the waves rolling up onto the shore. Feel how the breath expands and becomes very full, and crests and peaks, and then starts to recede. And just like watching the waves at the beach, you're the observer. You can see the waves come and you can see the waves go, and you don't have to do anything. You can just sweetly enjoy that observation. And with each breath, you may become more present in your body, and you might notice an area that feels a little tight or uncomfortable, and give yourself permission to wiggle around. Maybe the shoulder blades need to move around, or the pelvis needs to tip, or the arms or legs need more space. All throughout class, one of my hopes for you is that you will feel a signal from your body, and you'll listen. You'll be able to respond and have a conversation, a dialogue. And that starts now. And we'll just take a few more breaths in silence and see if you can smooth out your breath and slow it down. And then just notice your quality of breath and being. And without dialing up any effort or intensity, we'll begin to move. And so let's just start by ever so gently circling the weight around in the heels. So you can imagine there's a quarter underneath each heel, and you're tracing the rim of the quarter slowly and gently with the weight. It shouldn't feel like the feet are going to get tired. It should feel really sustainable. And maybe you start to feel how the movement travels all the way up the legs, all the way into the pelvis. Maybe you can even feel your skull rocking gently forward and back, a little massage on the craniofascia. Circle the other way. If you need to take a break, listen to that signal from your body. We definitely don't want to start yoga class with a leg cramp. Try to stop before that moment. And then let's all pause and feel any gentle tingling. Start to glide one heel in and then the other. Hands to the hip points. And begin your pelvic tilt. So the pelvis rocks forward and the low back arches. And then the pelvis rocks back and the low back flattens. Try moving extra slow. Feel that push and pull on the spine. And actually, like our last movement, feel how that relates all the way to the skull. Let your skull just follow the pushing and the pulling. Notice any sense of nice tractioning through the cervical vertebra, the base of the skull. Keep observing the breath. And then let your movements get smaller and smaller. And usually we think smaller is lesser, right? It's like, less strengthening, less interesting. But really, it creates even more support. even more intricacy in our musculature. And so notice how making those movements smaller feels different. What's turning on? Notice a sense of support through the spine. Notice how the pelvis and the rib cage are interacting with one another and mirroring one another. When the pelvis spills forward, the ribs splay. When the pelvis levels, the ribs close and become more connected to the core. Find a point right in the middle where you're not arching forward or back, and just pause and breathe. And as you pause and breathe, notice how the breath is interacting with the layers of the deep core that have been awakened. And then without losing neutral pelvis, neutral spine, exhale to lift one leg and then the other. And then inhale, set one leg and then the other back down. And do this with your own breath. If it feels like too much, just lift one leg at a time, set it down, and then switch. If you feel like the back is starting to arch or the belly is, instead of flattening, is starting to dome, definitely do just one leg at a time. If you want a little bit more here, when both legs are up, you can take one toe down to the earth and gently slide that leg long. Try to glide on the heel so you feel the back line of the body up the calves and hamstrings and glutes extending. And then bring that leg in and try the other leg if you're going for that option. And remember, slower is stronger. We're going to take some extra time to wake up some muscles that often need a little extra love in people. Muscles in the deep core and the glutes. And so for our next moment together, grab behind the thighs, roll up to seated, and find your strap. And it feels really nice to be seated. So before we lay down again, you can turn towards me just so it's easier to follow. Take your strap and slide the hands wide until they're out at an angle, and notice how the angle of the wrist matches the angle of the knuckles. You don't want the knuckles to drag in. You want it to stay at a straight line. And just start to lift the arms overhead. We can go cross-legged if that's comfortable or whatever feels good for you. And then gently press down into the sits bones and let the spine lift up and over to the left. And then come back through center and keep dragging the strap apart, lengthening through the spine as you go the other way. And you can keep it simple. You can just go side to side, or you can start to make figure eights with the knuckles and let the rest of the body follow. And so notice a massage through the rib cage, through the side body. If it feels tense or tight anywhere in the shoulders, try relaxing and not having to lift the arms so much. They can come wider instead. Okay, and then hardest part of the whole class, make a loop with the strap where the loop will actually hold its shape. So for the straps we have together, there's a moving metal piece. The moving piece goes towards the end of the buckle. The strap feeds through next to the cloth, and then the metal piece goes down, and then the strap goes back through, and the metal piece is what's going to lock it in place. Not a huge deal if you don't do it perfectly, but it might be helpful. And maybe you have a nice person next to you that can help you. Or someone can have my strap. Does anyone need help? Okay. So once you've got your strap, place it up above the knees. You want it so that you can open the knees and have maybe like 3 or 4 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. And let's put the loop on the right, the clasp on the right side so you can adjust it if you need to while you're lying down. And then we'll lie back down facing me. So you'll be on the left side of the body, arm underneath you. And we'll start with just some massaging through the left side of the body. You can do whatever's comfortable with your arm. So I like mine extended. Sometimes bending the elbow is nice. And then just start to gently roll forward and back, massaging the arm, massaging the rib cage, massaging the hip, and try going really, really slow here. Try feeling the breath as you move. Imagine all the tension in the left side of the body dissolving. And then we'll come back to center. Support your head so that you feel like you could tell your best friend a secret or something at a slumber party. And then we'll do some clamshells, and that's the whole point of the strap here. You've probably done clamshells before. It turns on the glutes, and the reason why we want the strap is it's going to make it a little harder to lift the leg. It's going to make it impossible, actually, and then you'll feel more of the glutes engaged. So I'll talk you through how to do that. The heels line up with the hips, so there's about a 45-degree angle between the upper body and the angle of the thighs. The pelvis is going to stay completely level, and then just start to effortlessly lift the top leg. When the strap catches the leg, notice what engages. You don't want to feel like the front of the hip is working. You want to feel like it's more in the back of the hip. If that's not happening for you, tighten the strap more, and then you'll get the resistance sooner. And actually, that's feeling really good. I just tightened my strap, and I like it more. So feel free to try that. And this is not a more is better game. So if you feel like, oh, the muscle's on, I'm going to push and intensify, try to release that idea and just be with the sense of brightness on the back of the hip. That's glute max turning on. See what happens when you push the bottom leg down to float the top leg. I find that the effort that's happening in my hip spreads into both hips, and it feels like really integrating and nice. You might even feel the bottom glute turn on. The glute muscle is in the back of the hip. It's one of the primary hip extensors, and it often gets long and weak in people, especially due to sitting, but for other reasons too. And then as long as we're here, play with extending the legs. We're going to do a similar exercise. If the hand's getting tired, you can go flat with the head. It doesn't matter. And now we're going to lift the legs straight up. And so now this is more for the outer thigh or gluteus medius, a deeper glute muscle. So just notice how it's different. Make sure, again, you don't feel it in the front of the hip. We're trying to turn on more in the sides and back of the hip. If you want to explore with kicking the leg back a little, you can, but just make sure the pelvis isn't moving. And then gently roll onto the back, drag the heels in, reach the hands towards the heels, and start to lengthen the knees forward to undrape the spine from the ground, lifting into a nice easy bridge. Just do a couple of these. And then we'll start to rock and roll forward and back. And come all the way up to either seated, or you can take a moment in boat pose. Actually, this is kind of fun. And notice how in boat pose you can press the legs into the strap to awaken the core a little bit extra. And you can lean from side to side. And then we're going to swivel on our hips the other direction so that Prem can hear me better. And we'll lay down on our back, and we'll do that same thing on the second side. I recommend sliding the buckle to the left now. Roll onto your right side, and take a moment just to be still and to pet Malasada. If you don't want her to lick you, just ignore her and she'll go away. But I think Kirtana likes it. And whenever you're ready, you can make your gentle rocks forward and back, just massaging the left side of the body. Or the right side, because I'm mirroring you. And start to scan the body. Notice if there's an area that feels tight. You don't need to figure it out, right? You don't even need to think about it, but just almost like allow your energy to flow into that space. Allow your breath to flow there. And then find stillness. Hand to the hip. We'll start to play with our clamshells on this side. So the heels line up with the hips, and then gently start to hover the top knee. The feet are going to stay together. We're really trying to localize this just into the big, pretty juicy muscle at the back of the hip. And you can always hold and breathe if it feels good, or you can keep taking your pulses. You can try tightening the strap a little bit. And then notice what happens when you push the outside of the right leg down into the ground, how the two glutes start to relate. And maybe you can even notice what the pelvic floor is doing here as you breathe. And then extend the legs out, extend the arm, flex the feet. Take a moment to find your neutral pelvis and notice it might almost be surprising how much effort it takes to not roll forward here or backward. And then you can start to hover the top leg just a little bit. You also have the option to send the top leg up and back. That can feel really nice too. And just notice the muscles that are turning on here, and notice if you can use that strength to allow for more length through the spine without arching the back, right? Sometimes we almost like just lift the heart. Imagine you're trying to extend through the crown of the head, creating more space through every single vertebra. And then, roll onto the back. This time, we're going to take the strap away, place it off to the side, and we're going to roll freely for a moment because that's going to feel really good. So lift the left leg, cross it over, and let it pull you onto the right side. If you're not afraid of the ground, you can roll onto the belly. If you don't like the ground, you can just stay on your side, or maybe there's a person right there. And then swap sides. And it's up to you how far you go, but just notice the sense of freedom through the legs, and notice how the legs can lead the movement and the rest of the body follows. And then let's come on to the back, grab behind the thighs, or try hands free, and we'll take a few rocks forward and back. And the next time you come up, pause there and place your right hand behind you. Cross your left leg in front of your right and let your knees start to drop so that you can flip to a tabletop. Start to paw out your hands, shifting the weight from hand to hand. Bend the elbows and bring extra weight to the pinky side of the hands. Start to circle the shoulders around the wrists a little bit. And then imagine you're jumping with the hands. Bend the elbows and push off with the fingers and take a few jumps with your hands, and you can change where the hands land so that you're waking up different areas of the arms and the shoulders, and just be really gentle. Try to land in slow motion. That's going to turn on more core muscles, so almost like a silent landing. And then start to jump higher and higher. And let's meet upward. Actually, it seemed like everyone was having fun, so do a couple more of those. There's no need to rush when you're having fun, or actually ever. And eventually, but you don't have to rush to do this, grab your blanket because I just think the knees will be happier. And open it up, place it underneath the knees, and also bring your blocks nearby. And as long as we're grabbing all the things around us, feel free to have a sip of water. Okay, turn to face me, because I think it'll be a little easier for now. If you want to turn your blanket, you can. I have enough room both directions, so it works. Let's play with a little bit of balancing on one knee. And this is sort of self-guided, so you can stay there for a while, or you can shift from side to side. And this is going to make you so grateful for having feet, right? Feet make standing so much easier. And it's okay, you know, if you're feeling wild, to throw yourself off a little bit. We're pretty low to the ground, so you can just catch yourself with your hand if you lose balance. But try to notice what's happening in the hip socket. Yeah, nice. You can extend the leg a little bit. Then you can fire some of those muscles that we were working with on the ground. And honestly, I think it's less hard than it usually is, because all the awesome work that we were doing laying down, we already turned on our deep core and lots of stabilization muscles. Next time the right leg is in the air, step it outside of the blocks, bring the blocks down, and bring your shoulders and wrists over the blocks. Make sure your wrists feel good here. So sometimes people like fingertips forward or off to the side, whatever feels good for you. And start to circle the weight around the back knee. And as you circle the weight really slowly and gently in the back knee, notice how the pelvis follows really smoothly. See if you can play with finding your neutral pelvis here, just like we explored on our back, that place where the rib cage and the pelvis are relating to one another. They're connecting, right? So they're not splaying apart, but they're parallel. And then when you do keep that relationship as you're rolling the weight around on the back knee, you might start to notice some more strength in the core, some more space in the back. Press the hands down into the block, round the spine like cat pose, and then start to grab onto the block with the right hand. Send your hips forward to slowly roll up. Take the block with you, and then drop the right hand. Push the left knee down and let the whole left side of the body slowly open from knee up through the side. Take a couple of breaths and try to feel how the whole left side of your body is connected. Notice what your neck is doing. Kirtana, your neck looks so nice and happy. Good job. Great adjustment, Prem. Awesome. Press down into the feet. Slowly rise up. Take the block with you. Press the hands to the block. Lift the back knee. Lift the hips. And sway the hips a little from side to side. And then lower the back knee, and we'll do that again. So we'll start with the rounding and the rolling up, taking the block with you, and then letting the whole left side of the body open. If the block is super close to the ground, you can place it down, push the fingers into the block, and notice how you can really lift and open when you do that. And then almost like a rubber band. Imagine that whole left side like a rubber band that you're stretching, and then let it go and it pulls you automatically forward back into that other shape where the back leg lifts and a little bit of a sway. So I changed directions and I'm realizing I shouldn't have, so this might get a little awkward, but we're going to go with it. Lower the blocks to the lowest height and step back into plank pose. Everybody have enough room? We're all friends here. Start to shift the hips from side to side, letting the weight shift into one hand and then the other. If this is too much, just lower the knees down. Try to find, actually, let's all lower the knees down and notice how you're like, oh, there's like a suppleness, there's an ease when my knees are down. And then try lifting the knees if you want to, and see if you can find that same sense of ease. And if you can't, I recommend choosing the ease by using your knees. Thank you. Okay, and then let's press back, take a little rest here, and slowly roll up. And as you roll up, take one leg with you and just notice how awesome your balance is. Find a drishti, steady gaze point. Try to relax into it. And then I'm going to turn just so you can see this. We're going to take a couple of pulses where we send the hips back like a little chair pose, and then we go into the balance on the other side. And you can stay balancing, or if that's not fun, choose to go back into our kneeling chair pose instead. See how relaxed you can be. I find when I relax more in my kneeling balance, I don't wobble quite as much. And the next time, the left foot. Is it left foot? Yes, left foot lifts. You can step it outside the blocks. That's the second side, right? Yeah. Place the hands down on the blocks. Whatever height works for you. I like them pretty high here. There's a quarter behind the back knee. Start to circle the weight around the quarter, seeing how fluidly the hips can move. And start to pay attention to the front foot. Anchor the front big toe. And notice as the front knee moves, how the arch of that foot starts to activate, especially when the knee goes wide and out to the side. The big toe has to work harder when the knee starts to go wide, and that's actually something we really want to have happen. Try to feel how, as the big toe stays down and the knee goes wide and out to the side, how you might get that same glute activation that we got with the strap and the clamshells. And then hands on the blocks, round the spine, cat pose, one vertebra at a time. Breathe space through the back of the neck. And then press the hips forward. Take the left block with you as you slowly roll up. And then allow the left hand to come down and allow the right knee pushing down to open the whole right side of the body. Take a breath here. Nice neck. And then go back the way you came. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and extend. And now you'll play with that at your own pace. You can always add and subtract. You don't have to do it just as I did it. But if you want to, it starts with the roll up, space through the front body, and then space through the side body. Stay there as long as you want. Option if the block's already close to let it come to the ground and push down, only if it feels like it's creating more space, right? Sometimes that creates compression and we don't want that. And then we'll go back the way we came. And then lower the blocks and step back to plank pose. This time we're going to try something very exciting. We're going to hold on to our blocks. I like middle height for that because I have little hands. And we're going to walk sideways into plank on the mat. That's pretty fun. And then just to keep the body happy, we're going to walk sideways and turn the other way. And once you've made it the other way, lower the knees down, place the blocks off to the side, and just place the hands underneath you. Tuck the toes under. Walk the hands forward a little bit, and then as you exhale, hover the knees, and then inhale, put the knees back down. And do this a few times. The next time the knees are down, find your neutral pelvis, just like we've been practicing. And then once you find neutral, exhale, hover the knees. And then just notice how the breath feels in the core when you do this. And do this a couple more times. And now lift opposite hand and knee and place opposite hand or hand and foot down. And do this a couple of times side to side, and then start to travel around your space and off of your mat a little bit. You might have to turn around and imagine you're like a really sneaky monkey. I don't know. Does anyone feel like a different animal here? A sloth? Then you have to move really slow. And then make your way back to your mat. Lower your knees down and slowly release the whole body down, and try a face down Shavasana for a moment. And then stack the hands elbows wide and just support your head and neck with your hands. And just notice how that might feel different in the neck. And just notice the feeling of your heart beating. Notice the rhythm of your breath. If you're here in person, you can feel the breeze on your skin. And bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Keep your knees down and push up to a kneeling plank. And then swivel on to face me. It's funny, every single person is facing the same way except James. But we know you're special. You're all special. So come onto the right forearm, or the facing me forearm. And for the first round, keep your hips down, and take one moment just to lengthen the spine, and then try reaching the top arm and leg apart, and then squeeze the elbow and knee together, and try to do this as effortlessly as possible. And then almost like let this feeling imprint on you. Stack the knees, try lifting the hips, and try to do it just as effortlessly with no hips. And if that doesn't feel good, just lower the hips right back down. I find it quite hard, so please don't feel bad if it's hard. And then the next time the leg extends, push down into the hands, and let everything that was just working hard, let it all stretch out. Nice breath through the right side of the body. Check in with the neck. You can look up and down just to make sure there's no tightness in the neck. And then we're going to do that again. So release over to the side. Hips down or up, it's up to you. And when you've got your positioning, then you can play with flying the top arm and leg and just gently bringing them together and apart. Whenever you need a break, now it's sort of like yogi's choice. Come into the counter pose. And then like that rubber band idea, let the whole side body lengthen and then spring you back over. And we'll just take a few more moments to explore and try to avoid that tendency that we all have of like, stay here longer, burn more. And try to find that sweetness and that spaciousness and prioritize that feeling. The next time you're in the side bend, pause there. We'll all meet there. You can add a little shearing by wrapping your top wing around you and looking down, and then pushing down into the shins, letting the whole body and the wing unfurl. Let the gaze follow the tip of the wing. Let your breath start to inform your movement. Doesn't matter where's the inhale and the exhale, just what feels useful to you. And then kick the legs forward and just pause for a moment in Dandasana and feel the right side of the body. Just notice any sense of warmth, tingling, energy flowing. And then we'll take it over to the other side. So on the first round, we keep the hip down. Right? Take a moment to circle the shoulder around the wrist. Notice if it might feel more supportive to walk the arm in. If you're not sure, try it. And the answer is wherever it feels like your neck has more room, more space. And then play with flying the top arm and leg. Focus on a sense of length. As the leg reaches out, maybe you can feel those same muscles activating from when we had the band around the thighs. And then effortlessly bring elbow and knee towards one another and reach out. And you don't want to feel like the hip flexors are doing too much work here. What I really like to do is feel like the back line of my body is lengthening as I do this. And then keeping that same energetic quality, you can try, if you want to, lifting the hips. And just make sure the angle of your knee feels supportive and there's no strain. And you can always do one lifted and one lowered. And then eventually stack the legs, push up. Let that whole left side become spacious. Stay there as long as you want. And then play with the counter. Know that you can always hold something if it feels good. Add something on if the body's getting curious. We're quite warm now. We've done a lot for the core, for the shoulders, for the hips, even for the feet. Take one more moment to explore. If you're ever feeling really crazy, you can do this in full plank, but not recommended right away. And we'll all meet in the side bend. Option to add that nice wing wrapping. And the movement of the arm is really more about getting the spine to rotate, so it should feel very soft in the shoulder. And then kick the legs out. Take a moment just to notice a sense of support in the body, length in the spine, lightness in the heart. And then kick your legs over to the left side. Pivot to your tabletop. Move your blanket out of the way and start to walk the hands in. Bend the knees deeply. Let the head hang heavy. And slowly press the hips forward, letting the spine roll up one vertebra at a time. Big circle with the arms at the top. And then bend the knees, going back down the way you came. And do two more on your own. Nice and slow, taking a few breaths to roll up. And grab your blocks, place them at the top of your mat. Option to grab a sip of water. Oh, that's a good way to place them. I wish I had cued that. I have so much water. And as long as we're in that casual in-between space, go for a little walk. Because we really, I know it's like we're just standing up, but we've done so much for all of our joints. Oh, cool. Yeah. Go into the grass. Be crazy. I love it. Let your arms swing feel your big toe pressing down. Notice any support through the muscles that we woke up with the strap, a little bit of brightness in the core, the back of the hip. And then you can start to make your way back to your mat. And if you're already here, you can do some bonus bouncing. And then walk up towards your blocks and circle the hips around the heels, just waking up some extra awareness in the feet. Find your center, relax the arms down, sweep the arms forward as you reach the hips back, and then come onto the toes and slowly come all the way up and feel the whole back line of the body shorten. And then take a couple of pulses here, back line lengthens in chair, and then it shortens as you become like the bottom of a rocking chair. Chair to rocking chair. It's perfect. And the next time you're in chair pose, shift the weight into the right foot and very consciously start to glide the left foot back and try to feel how the glute can participate in that action, creating space in the front of the hip. And then swing that leg forward so it lands on your block. Use your exhale to slowly hover the arms to the horizon. And then inhale, sweep the left arm down and back. And then inhale the arm forward, lift the leg. And then exhale to slowly tip forward. Grab your block with your left hand and just hover the block a few inches away from the mat. Take one breath here. Option to reach the right hand back. Keep all the joints soft and supple. See if you can bounce the right leg a couple of times. And then drop the left foot. Bring the hands to the blocks. Bend the knees deeply and release forward. Press the hips forward. Slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. Let the arms circle. And we'll do that one more time a little bit faster. So the arms sweep forward and the hips reach back. And then slowly come on to the tiptoes, lengthening the whole front of the body. Shift back into chair. Weight in the right foot. Slowly glide the left foot back and let it fly for a moment. And then swing it forward to the block. Use your exhale to hover the arms to the horizon. And then inhale, sweep down and back. And exhale down and forward. Let the knee effortlessly float. And then start to tip forward into your very soft Virabhadrasana 3. You can even keep the heel squeezing in towards the glute to have a little bit more awareness of how your hips are supporting here. Reach for the left block and then just hover it away to help shift the hips down, to help that left side of the body have more awareness. Drop the block down, or drop the foot down, bend the knees, release forward. And then take the blocks with you, slowly roll up and turn and walk over to the other side. So we'll do the same thing facing the other direction. You can roll up or just come up to standing. If you're already up to standing, it's okay. Between sides, take a couple of nice twists, just releasing any tension, bringing out from toe to head. And then from center, we'll take our chair pose, and then our tippy toe, rocking chair pose, back to chair. This time glide Uh-oh. Thank you. You shouldn't have turned. I don't know. Glide the left foot back and feel. Oh. Shift the weight into the left foot and glide the right foot back, waking up the whole back line of the body. You can even bend the knee a little bit. Feel that support. And then swing the leg forward. Didn't we twist towards each other though? Oh, great. Okay. Okay, this is great. Exhale, float the arms to the horizon. Inhale, sweep the right arm down and back. And then as you come back around, let the knee hover as weightlessly as possible. And then start to shift forward, anchoring the big toe. Option to grab that block. Notice how bending the knee helps you level out the pelvis. And then set the block down, let the legs swing down, bend the knees, releasing forward. And we'll just do it one more time to see how fluidly you can do it now that you know the pathway. Take one moment to pause at the top, feeling as weightless as possible. And then bend the knees, reaching the hips back to chair. Very last tippy toe moment, coming up. And then back down to chair. Shift the weight into your right foot. No, your I don't know why this is really messing with me. Okay. We're doing... Okay. Bring your right foot back. Let it float. Feel the back line lifting. And then, oh, I see. And then shift it forward, lifting the knee as weightlessly as possible. Set the foot down. Exhale to float. And then inhale for the sweep. And then sweep the arm forward, kick the leg back. Last moment, let it be as effortless as possible. Don't worry about how far you tip or how straight your limbs are. Reach for that block and let it just gently melt you into the position. Left arm can swing back. And then set the block down, set the foot down, bend the knees deeply. And then slowly start to lower the hips. And just for fun, place the block between the thighs and start to roll forward and back. And just notice how the block between the thighs gives you a little more awareness of your core and your pelvic floor. You don't have to squeeze it. Just having it there, you are doing the right amount of work. And the next time you recline, you can set the feet down, keep the block there, reach the hands towards the heels, and ever so gently with your exhale, start to reach the knees forward, letting the hips lift. Gentlest squeeze of the block. Take a few breaths here, and if it feels good and you want a little bit more, you can walk the shoulder blades together, interlace the hands, reach the knuckles towards the heels. Make sure you can breathe. I really like to sway and draw some big circles with my hips, letting my rib cage massage the underside of my shoulder blades. Feel free to try that. And then release the arms, release the blocks, and grab your blanket, place it underneath the knees. And let everything release in Shavasana. And take your next inhale to feel the body expand. And as you exhale, exhale audibly through the mouth. And just let everything go. And feel free to do a couple more like that, just releasing any physical tension, but also any mental, emotional, energetic tension. Just letting yourself go into that space of restoration, support. And just like we began class, you can observe the breath just like you would observe the waves pulling in and receding at the coastline. And notice if it's easier to be in that observer space than it was in the beginning of class. And as we rest here, relax as deeply as is possible while staying conscious, while staying in this observer space. I'm gonna play the chant from the beginning of class, and you can use it to gently start to transition, but take your time and enjoy the path, and eventually when you make it to seated, you're welcome to join me in chanting. Anamanti 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 Anamanti. Om Ham Atmate Rujadmakaya Pat Swaha. 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 Shri Ram Jaya Ram Sita Ram Baba Hanuman. 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 Thanks everyone for practicing. Namaste. And now I have a favor to ask of everyone. So this class was designed for my dear friend based on things that are good for her body, because her birthday is on Thursday, and I'm going to send this to her. Can we sing happy birthday to her? Can we just turn the camera around? And you can sing too, Mom. She won't hear you, but she'll feel the love. It's Annapurna in Chicago. Oh, you're so fancy. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Annapurna. Happy birthday to you. Yay, we love you. Happy birthday. Thanks, everybody. It's someone's birthday somewhere.